have in this group? Fishing, fishermen, fisherwomen. You guys love to fish? Awesome. So when I was little, very little, my dad was an avid fisherman. He still is. He's 94 years old, but he's an avid fisherman. But he used to take us out every single Saturday on the boat, whether we wanted to or not, to go fishing, my brother and I. My older brother really got into fishing. Me, not so much. But I learned 3 things about fishing that applies to smoozing that I still carry today. One is that some people are really, really good at fishing. But everybody can do it. Everybody can do it. You know, some people are like my dad. I mean, they've got the tackle box and, you know, all the equipment and that silver spinny thing that, you know, fish go crazy about, right? You can have all the equipment. You can go out every single day. You can be really, really good at fishing. But everybody can throw a line in with a pole into the water, right? And you can try. That's the same thing with smoozing. Some people are natural smoozers. If you showed up today and you say, I'm not one of those, right? I'm nervous about being here. I came here because I want to learn something. But if you came here because I love to smooze and I want to learn how to be a better smoozer, everybody can be a better smoozer. Everybody can be a better connector. Everybody can be a better communicator. Everybody can be a better conversationalist. Everybody can do it, right? But you have to learn and you have to grow. The second thing I learned about from fishing was that it requires a lot of patience, right? A lot of patience. I think that's why I'm not a fisherman today, because we would get out in the boat, right? And all day long and nothing. We would not catch anything, right? But my dad would say, that's okay, because that big fish is still in that water, and all we need to do is get up earlier the next morning, and he'd get us out of bed, and we'd go after the fish, you know, because he knew if he kept on trying. It's the same thing with smoozing, right? It requires a lot of patience. First of all, it requires patience for yourself. Don't get overwhelmed by what we talk about today. Just take away one thing that you want to apply and you're going to use, right? Because that one thing is going to get you a little bit further. It's going to get you closer to that big fish that you really want to land. That person, that opportunity, that job, that career, whatever it might be, it's going to get you closer. But you got to have patience with yourself and you got to have patience with the process, right? And then the third thing I learned is that fishermen know their fish, right? I mean, my dad knew all about fish. He knew what they ate. He knew the bait that he should be using. He knew where they lived and what the depth was, right? And it's the same for smoozing, is that it's all about people. It's about a curiosity or interest in other people. So that means you need to have an attitude that you love people or at least want to get to know somebody, right? It's not about yourself. It's about the value you can add to somebody else and the curiosity that you can have in someone else, okay? So smoozing is something that can be learned. It requires patience, and it's all about curiosity with people, knowing your people, knowing your fish, if you will. And I love that portion of it. So today we're going to learn what is smoozing, what it is and what it's not. We're going to learn the value of smoozing. We're going to learn the qualities of a master smoozer. Is that you? Master smoozer? Okay.
I'm sure it's in there.
It's in there somewhere. And then we're going to talk about some techniques and tips that are going to sharpen your schmoozing, okay? I didn't have too many S's. Sharpen your schmoozing, right? So we're going to do all that in just a few minutes. And since this is Lunch and Learn, I think I'm going to learn as much from you as you are from me. And so are you ready to get started? Let me ask you, when you think of someone who is a smoozer, when you think of the word itself, what do you think of when you hear the term?
Smoozer?
A smoozer.
I can't even pronounce it right. Smoozer. Like a fast talker.
A fast talker, yeah. A smooth talker. A confident talker.
Car salesman.
A car salesman. A smoozer, yeah. Charismatic. Okay.
Politician.
A politician. Okay. What's that?
Could be relatable.
Relatable.
Well, I actually thought the word schmoozer sounds like, I take that as a kind of a negative connotation.
Mm-hmm.
But when I thought of
Unless you don't know me. Yeah, that's what I think of. Smoozer as someone who's disingenuous, someone who's not authentic, someone who is like at the surface level, and then they get what they need, and then they move on, right? We're going to be positive smoozers today. That's exactly right. Yeah, I want you to let those misconceptions and those myths about smoozing, all the things that we bring to the table, kind of go out the door today. Because we're going to be talking about a smoozer as a very positive way of communication, a very positive way of interaction. In fact, those misconceptions can be turned, and I think smoozing is actually having very genuine conversations with people, having connections with people, and having meaningful conversations with people. Is that authentic smoozing is more about, connecting to somebody on their level and being able to engage initially in a conversation and then taking it a little bit further. It's about relationship building. It really is. Not about taking advantage of people, right? Smoozing is not about taking advantage of people. And second, if you're an introvert or you're extrovert, smoozing is for you too, right? I am an introverted extrovert. It takes something for me to come into the room and start speaking to you, honestly. And then when I leave, it takes something for me to recharge so that I can do it again. I am an introverted extrovert. Some of you are that way, right? Like all I'm thinking is like, and all morning and all night, I was like, okay, I'm kind of fearful about this, right? Because I put myself out there as a smoozologist, right? Certified smoozologist. Maybe I don't have what they need, right? And I get to stand in front of everybody. And then I started thinking, this is an hour. 45 minutes. I might cut it back to 35 minutes, right? And I'm thinking, I can do that, right? I can do that. You can do that too. You can come into a room and you can achieve what your goals are and really achieve someone else's goals for being in the room and being present and being attentive and being a good smoozer, and it'll go just like that. And you'll find value in that, right? So it's leveraging your own unique strengths. Right? We all have these strengths, whether we're introverts or extroverts. And so at some level, when you start connecting with other people, those strengths should be coming out, right? You should be sharing the strengths and finding out the strengths of somebody else and connecting on that level. And the third thing is that smoozing is also, as I said, building those relationships, which start at the surface level, but we should be thinking about how to take that a little further. How do you build a relationship with somebody? Just one person. You come into this room, don't have your hopes up in meeting everybody in the room. That's not what connects you to people. It's not about working yourself around the room and trying to get as many contacts as possible. It's connecting with somebody one-on-one to start a relationship, right? It might be you today. It might be somebody else tomorrow. Be very patient with yourself, right? Because we're talking about meaningful relationships, not surface level, not skimming the surface, but going deeper. And then the fourth thing smoozing is really fostering trust and building mutual beneficial value. Because we think of smoozing as being one-sided. Like I've got something that you've got, or I need something that you've got, right? And so I'm here because I'm going to be asking you for something or looking for something, and if you don't have it or you're not ready, then I'm moving on. That's not smoozing. Smoozing is actually beneficial to both people. You should be adding value to somebody else and building a relationship where that person has resources, connections, strengths that would be beneficial for you too. So think of it as relationship building. Don't think of it as the conversations that are surface level that are one-sided, right? Has everybody got that? Okay, great. So that's what smoozing is, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. I think the value of smoozing, real quickly, is worth mentioning because everyone came into this, I've talked to some of you, everyone came into this room for different reasons. Some of us want to expand our network, and smoozing will definitely do that. Is that if you let the process go, and if you are patient, we're definitely going to meet new people, we're going to get to know new people, and if we follow up with them and learn their names and what they do, then it's going to expand our network. And that's incredible value for what you do in your life is expanding your network. Second, it gives you a reputation as a connector too. So I realize that that's not a top strength for everybody. Jennifer Olson was going to be here today, but she had to back out. If you know Jennifer Olson, who's Director of Business Development here in the city, you know that one of her top strengths is a connector. How valuable that is in every one of our professions and every one of our personal life is being able to connect situations and circumstances and people. Some of us are wired that way. When you tell me what you do, I immediately think, oh, well, you need to meet Michael, right? You need to meet Michael, Nicole, Michael, let me connect you. And then some of us have to work at it, but you can do it. You can connect. And once you have that reputation as a connector, people start calling you, right? It happens every day at EThOs. People start calling and saying, hey, can you help me? And I may have no idea what they're talking about or how to connect them, but they came to you. They saw you as a connector. There's value in that. There's a benefit in that. If you really do want to help people, you'll figure it out, right? Third is really long-term success and influence. This is about influence. This is about building influence. That's the greatest power in leadership, is having positive influence on people's lives. And so whatever your goals are, whether it's achieve a degree or achieve a business goal or to be a title in a company or something like that, whatever your personal goals are, that a long-term schmoozing will help you do that. Because the more we connect with people, our lives are about people, right? What's the best part about life? People. What's the worst part about life? People. Right?
Yeah.
And so, but we don't make that choice. Unless we're a hermit, we have to engage with people. Change your mindset. Find the great value in helping other people and finding the worth in that, finding the value of schmoozing. And the fourth and last thing I wrote here was, it's really, I always say I do this for selfish reasons. Like I stand in front of people, or I lead a mastermind, or I teach a class. Because crap, I need that, right? I've got lots of books in my office. I got lots of books at home, right? But I'm not disciplined enough to read those and to learn from those. I have to engage with other people because that adds some accountability. When I get up here, you want me to say something at significant depth about schmoozing. So I've got to train myself. I got to look for examples. I got to be able to speak in front of people. It should be the same for you too, is that schmoozing should add value to you, your personal growth, especially if it gets you out of your comfort zone. Because none of us grow in our comfort zone. That's where we want to reside. I'd rather be at Lazy Boy petting my golden retriever Truman, right? I'd rather be at home. But the comfort zone, if I stretch myself, I'm going to learn. That's where the gold is outside of our comfort zone. And you should be concentrating on others' growth too. At this part of my career, at this part of my life, there is no greater value in my life than helping other people. It's just something that I have fallen in love with. God has set me up with the influence, and I don't know how it happened, right? I can't say that I did this or that, but to be able to help somebody achieve a dream or a goal, gosh, I don't know if there's a bigger value than that. Some of us are chasing for ourselves, and that's cool. But when you're chasing for somebody else and you see that maybe what you connected them to or what you said or some resource that you had helped them get to the next level, that is awesome. There's no better part of life than that, okay? So I want us to talk about next the qualities of a great schmoozer, a master schmoozer. I want you to think of somebody, now that we define schmoozing, think of somebody who's a great schmoozer, a master schmoozer, that you've had an interaction with, or what kind of qualities would that person have?
Self-confidence.
Okay? Self-confidence. A good listener. Keep it coming. Compassionate? Awesome. Empathy for others?
Some kind of trust there.
There's trust there? Okay. They're resourceful.
Perpetual good mood.
Oh, good mood. So there's some social and emotional health there. Yep,
He's always smiling, always very open, and
love it.
approachable.
Approachable, good.
Positive outlook. They don't tear others down.
Okay. Courageous. Other-centered.
Doesn't gossip.
Say it again.
Doesn't gossip.
Doesn't gossip. That's a good one. What else?
Personable.
Personable.
I think someone who's inquisitive.
Inquisitive.
A lot of questions to try to understand this person and how to bring the connections together, things of that nature.
I know I didn't spell that right. That's okay.
Everybody knows us.
This is not a spelling class, okay? Anything else?
Humorous when needed.
Humorous when needed. That's good. When needed. That's right. Should I draw? I'll draw a picture of myself over here. That's right. What else? Relatable. Good. Loyal. Good.
Patient.
Do you say patient? Patient. Good.
Understanding.
That's good. So all these qualities, especially the things that you said in particular, is your strength in schmoozing. There's a reason why you came up with one particular thought that you shared. That's where our strengths come from. It's the way our mind and heart work, right? And these other areas are things that we may not have yet. They might be our growth gap, but that's where we want to be. I mean, we all know great schmoozers. We all know great connectors. We all know great conversationalists when we meet it, right? So the gap between knowing what is good and where we need to be is not that great. Because once you know, that's the big portion of it. Everybody was at the eclipse, right? Everybody shared in that. We met 3 young men from Nashville on the square. They actually came up to EThOs that were probably the most impressive schmoozers that I have met in quite a while. Yeah, they were 20-something-year-old guys, and they came up because they found out we had a business incubator. They had traveled from Nashville. The name of their company was Eclipse. It was Eclipse Digital Asset. They had it on their T-shirts. And they were like, well, that's the name of our company. Then we're going to have to go from Nashville to the center of the eclipse, right? And so they were in Harrisburg that morning. They had been at Little Chapel. They knew somebody at Little Chapel Church they knew. And then they came down to the square. These guys had qualities of schmoozing that, man, go way beyond their years. They were just, I mean, you walked away just like, wow, they are so impressive. At the same time, they made you feel very valuable. What were some of the qualities? We talked about this the other night. What were some of the qualities that we raised that we said we saw in those guys?
Well, I think that one of them, when he approached me, he kind of asked me for my name, but we were like sideways, right? So I turned around and I said, my name is Rocio. And he immediately like got interested in that, and he moved from where he was to right in front of me, and where we could see each other eye to eye. And so he asked me, where is your name from? And I said, well, I'm originally from Mexico, and that's phenomenal. And so he started asking me questions, and he was just completely wanting to hear all my story. And it was like almost like intimidated that everything disappeared, but it was him wanting to know more about me.
Right.
And I was just so impressed. dad traveled to Venezuela, you know, and his experience with Spanish, and it was just a whole conversation. And he started, then he asked me, what do you do? And he says, well, I'm a pastor of a church. Oh, that's phenomenal. I go to a church too. So it was just like one thing after another, and at the end he said, I am so delighted to meet you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Where is it coming from?
Yeah. Yeah. So how did it make you feel?
It made me, I was impressed.
Right.
That a kid so young
Yep.
would hold a conversation like that.
Yep.
It would make me feel like I was the only one in the room.
Yep.
Like my life was the most interesting thing in the world.
Yep.
And so much confidence.
Yeah. Did you feel that they were overpowering the conversation?
No, never. He kept on asking me questions, like somebody said, inquisitive. He kept on asking me questions about myself, and somehow he found something in his life that related to what we were talking about.
Were they confident, or were they more like timid for their age and things like that?
They were so confident. And since the moment they came into EThOs, you could tell they were there. They spoke loud. They carried themselves with, like, we know what we're doing here. We know what are we here for.
What do you think their interest was in being there?
They're looking for business opportunities.
Right. But they asked questions about you.
Yes.
Right. So these three guys impressed me so much because of these qualities. I mean, they were present. They were like, you could not walk away from these three guys. They were dynamic. Not because of what they said, other than their questions, right? They were so interested in about what we were doing, how we got started as a business incubator, what was going on in Marion downtown. I mean, the question just went and they would stop and not go to the next question until you had completely answered that. I was so impressed, I was like, well, you need to meet the mayor. Right? So we walked across the square and to go upstairs to find the mayor. And the mayor was meeting with his wife, Cheryl, and we like, okay, thank you, Cheryl, you can... Right? Yeah. And exactly, time's up. And so I introduced these guys, and these guys immediately started asking questions about him, his background, how did he get to be mayor, what was his interest, what was his vision. I mean, they knew from the prior experience with me and where they were, like what the next level was, like the next question, the next interest that they have. And it's funny, it's the first time I ever saw the mayor be quiet. Yeah, I think he was thoroughly impressed. Yeah, I was like, how did these guys find us? How did they show up? Young entrepreneurs, digital asset, which is cryptocurrency investing. I don't know if you know about that. They weren't interested in just talking about their business. They were interested in what you're doing. And that is what the key to schmoozing is. It's interest in somebody else. It's adding value to somebody else. It's finding the gold. It's mining the gold. It's finding the big fish by casting those questions, by casting that interest. And rapport. You know what rapport is? That feeling of rapport is like it's a genuine conversation that you're not having to work hard on. That's what you felt with these folks. And that's what great schmoozing is. But it takes practice. You've got to be able to do it over and over and over. Let me give you some tips and techniques. And I don't have them all here, but I've got 10. So these are tips and techniques to sharpen your schmoozing. So occasionally I go out to breakfast with my 15-year-old David. He likes to do the man thing, and we go to Cracker Barrel. So we're having a conversation at Cracker Barrel, which I think is pretty cool, right? I mean, I'm 57, he's 15. I was just like, this is awesome. This is valuable stuff. But David asked me this past Saturday, he's like, Dad, how do you have a conversation? Right? How do you have a conversation? So I started looking around the room, and I was like, well, here's one way. One way is that you got to start very light. Sometimes we get so excited about what we do and about somebody else, we go into depth. But you don't know if that's where the fish lie, right? So you got to, it's small talk. You know, everybody says, well, I either care for it or I don't care for it. It is valuable to talk about the weather, to talk about sports, whatever might open the door. But you don't stay there, right? You move on. so I move on to what I observe, right? So when I came in, you observed my jacket, right? When I was at Cracker Barrel, I told him, well, look at that person's shirt over there. He had a red bird, which I'm from West Frankfort, so I recognized that, but it had a red bird, but also a cross next to the red bird. And I said, well, that's kind of interesting because I've never seen that before. So that's a conversation starter. To be able to observe somebody else, might be the way they look or their attitude or what they're wearing or something about them, their car that they drive or something, which is very surface level, but ask them about it. Ask them what you observe about them. Something that genuinely interests. It's not made up stuff, something that genuinely interests you. And then carry it on. What's a thoughtful question that you can ask as your interest, your curiosity? That's what it's all about, is being curious about somebody else. And be careful that you don't get into some things that might be too personal or intrusive, okay? So it's okay to talk about, church, right? But I didn't jump in and say, well, what does your church believe, by the way, right? That might come later as we build on that relationship, but there's going to have to be a lot of trust there before I start talking about your practices and your beliefs. But I was interested in you, your church, what you got started, all that kind of stuff. And there was some commonality there, right? And so that's what we need to also do. I think like attracts like, right? Like attracts like. We should be looking for the commonalities. We should be looking for those that we connect on. So I got to go to Pepsi Mid-America and meet with Keith Dickens. He's the president. We were going to talk about supporting Boys and Girls Club. I'm on the board trying to help it get restarted here in Marion and Carbondale. So what I didn't know was that his son Hunter was going to be in the room. I've met one son. He has 3 boys, but Hunter is somebody I didn't know at all. And he was there, and he was going to meet with me also because he had some interest, and his dad wanted him to be there. So first thing I found out when they introduced was that Hunter's in seminary. I was like, really? I went to seminary. Where are you going to seminary? And so they're Roman Catholic, and they're going to St. Minrad, I think is the name of it. It's in southern Indiana, and he's like in his 2nd year of seminary. So click, right? I had something that I could connect with him and ask some thoughtful questions. So we immediately went from surface level, hello, how are you? How old are you? And things like that, to this is, tell me more about your faith. Tell me more about your seminary experience. And then I could engage on some of that too. So like attracts like, and you need to figure out what those commonalities are. And everybody has those. Don't be fearful. You are in common with somebody else. Number 5 is active listening. This is very important. I mean, this is about communication skills. And when we talk to people, some of us are very energetic, right? And we want to start talking too, but it's not good to interrupt somebody else. Is to, like Rocio said, what that young man did with being attentive, he came over with his body language, right? And said, you're my purpose, my mission, my now. I am present with you. So I'm not going to interrupt you. I'm going to talk to you. Same thing with eye contact, right? Mr. Mayer, hate to brag on him, but he's some of the best. He's best with listening. And one reason is because he has some hearing loss and wears equipment for that. But he knows he has to concentrate on somebody when he listens. And I was like, that's awesome. What a strength that you developed because of something that, of loss of hearing. So I think we all should have that attitude, is that you're the person I'm engaging with at the time. You're the most important person right now. So stop thinking about what you're doing next. We all do that. We all think about where we need to go, our time, all those things. It takes some discipline, but you can practice those, right? Facial expressions, the same things. Look at people in the eye, smile, do those things that we may not be accustomed to doing to show that we're attentive with person. Read their nonverbal cues. So you can easily tell if someone's uncomfortable or someone does have to depart, or they're got a kid at home that's sick or something like that. And so we need to be able to slow down our own thought process and start reading somebody else. It's about what the other person in the room is, what they're doing, what they're thinking, what's on their plate, right? And that's important for you. So if they feel uncomfortable, then that might be a time to back off. That might be a time to go in a different direction. Number 8, real quick, share your own insights and experience. So I talked so much about valuing somebody else and listening to somebody else, but there's time for you to share your own experience. There's time to share your own insights. Just don't dominate the conversation. And this is my flaw, right? So we were talking about this the other night. It's always good to have your blind spots revealed, right? So Rosia's like, well, you actually just talk too much in conversations, right? So bam, right? Hit me with the door. That is good. That is good, because those blind spots is what we need to be looking in order to be better with people. 9, one person at a time, don't rush. I've said this before, is that when you come into the room, it's all about the big fish or the gold that you can mine that particular day, right? Don't be looking at occasions, because that makes me fearful, honestly. That makes me, tense when I think of big rooms with lots of people. You are there to meet someone special that day. I believe in God, and God makes connections, and God provides opportunities for all of us. And there's something about that day in that moment that is good for you and good for somebody else. You might just be adding value to somebody else that's going to make their day, make their career. I don't know. So one person at a time, and don't rush. And that's the last one, is concentrate on adding value. Concentrate on adding gold to somebody else. So I'm going to stop there with those 10. You probably have your own tip or your technique about smoozing that I left off the board. So what is that? We've got some good smoozologists in here too.
So going back to number 8, sharing your own insights and experience. For talkative people like myself and probably you, being assertive just kind of comes naturally to us. But I feel like I come across a lot of people who don't feel that they're very good conversationalists, and I think it's in part because they're not assertive. They don't feel that their insight and their experience is valuable enough. And I think it's just realizing that you don't get to judge how valuable your insights and experiences are.
Yeah.
You just get to reveal them.
Yeah.
Everyone else decides how valuable they are.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's very good. So I met Smitty just 2 weeks ago. First of all, he has a name that you remember, right? And he has a company called Fired Up that he's very good. He's got his elevator, speech down. BNI, right? BNI and some other organizations have helped develop that. But Smitty is eager about being with people. He jumped at the chance of being here. Other events that were happening, he's already talked about how to add value to those events, our Work Happy event that we have coming up. And so that is good. That's positivity that he's adding value, right? But I love what you said about, some of us are like ready to engage. We've got the power to engage. And that's not bad, as long as we let the other person to also, because it's back and forth.
I was going to say, it surprises me how many people, because I'm very out there, I'm very open, talk to everybody, never met a stranger. But I noticed here lately, because I've been paying attention to my conversations with others, and how uncomfortable it makes them to look them in the eye.
Yep.
Because,
Yep.
I'm talking to them.
Yep.
So I just random thought.
No, I think that's so true. So that's, we talk about soft skills. Soft skills are really the most important thing for our generation that's coming into the workforce and working right now. I met Max. So Max works downstairs as the golf in the pro shop, right? He was just up here a little earlier. And we instantly started clicking because he was interested in what the art of smoozing was. And I talked about it being a soft skill. He goes, well, that's exactly what my high school students need. Well, I didn't know what he did. So I'm like, high school students, are you the golf coach for the high school, or how many high school students do you have at home? He goes, no, my team in my office, the people that I lead, they're like, they need these soft skills. They need to be able to look people in the eye. They need to be going an extra mile for people. These are all things that you develop in soft skills. And if we're not learning those and we're not modeling those, guess what the next generation gets, right? They see, and that's what they learn from. That's good. Somebody else, what other tip or technique?
I've recently gave a presentation at BNI, and one of the comments that kept coming up after my presentation is my ability to be vulnerable. And I think that my ability to be vulnerable is what allows me to be genuine.
That's good.
But then it also allows me to be relatable.
Right.
And I've never really looked at it as being vulnerable. I just am unabashedly myself.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Yeah, we're not talking about trying to be somebody else. We're talking about you truly bringing out the value of being yourself. Because if you do that, you are vulnerable in doing that, but you're approachable.
You're also putting out there that it's okay for them to be themselves as well, that you are accepting of them no matter what.
Right.
You know, it's okay to look me in the eye. I don't see, you can take that mask off, it's okay. 'Cause
Right.
my mask is messed up too, so.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, we can't do this if we're going to go to judgmental mode, right? Our values may not be the same. Doesn't mean I need to make a judgment on this ground at this point and hold my flag and wave it, right? That's not how you connect with people. You need to find out more about them. You need to be curious about them so that you can connect with them, because that's how real life change happens, is through those connections and being real with people.
I think one of the common misconceptions is that they're so popular, and they walk around the room, they're slapping everybody on the back, telling jokes, laughing. You know, and it took me a long time to realize I don't have to be that guy.
No.
You know, I'd rather go this far, this wide and real deep, as opposed to real wide and real shallow.
Right, exactly.
So I think it's really key to realize I'm not going to impact everybody. I'm not going to connect with everybody, and that's okay.
Yeah, that's good.
I was just gonna say that actually, and maybe if you don't connect with one person, if you're shy, you might feel rejected or something. And I think the message to tell yourself is, that's just not the person in the room that I was gonna connect with. There's somebody else that I can approach and engage with that might be the right fit.
Yep. So are you ready to try this?
Let's go. I have one more thing I have to say. I judge people on their handshake. That's probably.
Oh, there you go.
Dead vision handshakes.
Well, guess what you're going to get today? You're going to go home with a sore hand, I think. So, okay. So, yeah, you came here to lunch and learn. This is the exercise. I'm going to ask you each to make a meaningful connection with someone today, to connect with somebody. It has to be someone that you have not, you may have met them today, but you don't know them. You've not met them before, right? And you're going to practice these things that we learn, so the eye contact and the body language and, you know, and more. I'm going to start you off with these, and then you can take it in any direction that you want to, but first introduce yourself, and it can be on surface level, name, where you work, your home life, where you live, and things like that. But I need you to start looking for connections. What do you guys have that might be in common, or an interest, or the people that you know? And you can keep on going. You can ask them, why did you come here? So that's a connector, because you're all in the same room at the same time. And then what did you learn from this time together, and how can you apply it? Okay? So don't feel like, oh, I only got to number 1, so I failed. No, it's okay. I want you to have a meaningful conversation with one person, right? Now, if we're not even numbers with pairs, it's okay to jump in with somebody else. So it could be 3. But are you ready? Because you're going to have about you're going to have 7 minutes to do this, right? You can stand up and move around.